All right, thank you everybody for coming. I appreciate you taking time out of your day. It's important. You know, our most precious commodity is time. My name's Phil Scott. I'm here out of the Sacramento branch of Summit Funding. Jim Reed and I run tandem. We've got a great group of people. Very proud of our team. I think we've got 22 LOs now. This last month, I believe it was 10 of them were over 10 deals per month. Fundings. We had Joy Zeminskis last month down in Texas, funded 20 deals. It was the first time she ever funded 20 deals in her life. Spent a ton of time with her. Alicia even, she just got done in this room right here. I was absolutely thrilled to listen to my girl talk about what I've been talking with her about and what Dan spends time talking with his team as well. It's the upfront. Put your file in the best opportunity for success from the beginning. So my role is to help teach and coach people. I've been at this now 26 years, 15 years affiliation with Summit Funding. Did mine just go dead? Sounded like it just went dead. That guy started tapping and mine went out. So I'll just talk that much louder, is that I was here for 4 years and then soaked up everything. At the time, I thought it was a curse being coached personally by Rick Ruby. And there were times I'd come out and my LP2 would say, man, you're always mad when you come out of there. Why do you do it? I said, because I focus on the outcome, not the process. I didn't like the process, but I loved the results. Todd wasn't giving up any equity ownership. I wanted to own my own company, so 6 of us started a reverse mortgage company, built that to 190 people, sold that to Genworth. Client at the time, 22 people, asked me to go there and help grow that. We took that to 400 people, had an equity event. I always knew I wanted to come back to Summit. The 3 people in my business life that I give all the credit in the world to, Jimmy for sure, on a day-to-day basis, interacting with me, Todd and Rick. Right? They taught me a ton of things, and so I give them all the credit in the world. Always knew I wanted to come back home. My wife took over my practice for 8.5 years, so it's kind of like I didn't ever really leave. So that's my background, and I help support our Sacramento team. And so John and I are going to fill in for Jimmy. John and I are more than capable of handling this topic today, and we're going to bring it with passion as well, because this is something that we both agree. So it's ironic that they asked us to do it. It's the upfront that really makes a huge difference in the outcome of your business. So John, tell them about you.
All right, well, good afternoon. I am John King. I am a loan consultant out of the Lodi branch. I've been with Summit now going on 4 years, been 15 years in the industry. I'm producing an average of about 14 to 15 units a month right now. I'm currently going through growing pains and growing my team, so a lot of what I'm going to talk about is where I was at a year ago when I had a team of 5, where I'm at today with a team of 3, and the 2 people working for me are relatively new. So I'll kind of help you no matter where you are throughout that process, give you some insight and some tips and some ideas on what we can do to turn in better files. So I'll turn it over to Phil and get us started.
Perfect. Did that come back on now? Can you hear me on the mic? Okay. So I'm going to talk big picture, just more of strategy, and then John's going to talk more tactical, but strategy from a perspective of, and I always start this conversation from the perspective of control, and write this down. Please take lots of notes. Please take lots of notes. In life, would you agree that there's control, things that we're in complete control of, and then there's influence? And when we live in cause, and then there's effect. I strongly encourage you that take an apps at the beginning. I don't know why it seems like this thing keeps going on and off. To live in cause is things that I'm in control of. That's why I know that I'm in complete control. When that client calls in, I'm going to set up a system to where we get the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so help you whoever you pray to. Okay? So control versus what it sounds like when people live in effect is, well, but our turn times have gotten so long. I can't get a deal through. And fussing and fighting over stuff that you don't have any control over versus I'm promising you, you live on this side and stay in the things that you're in complete control of. You're going to take and live in cause. Your results are going to go up. And when I get bigger results, do I have more or less influence? I got a lot more influence, right? I'm qualified to say that. Look at the branch we're doing right now. We've got influence over the process, but we're not complaining. We don't spend a ton of time, and it gets frustrating. One of my team members even said, Phil, but you keep presenting that we have to get better, and that sales is going to fix everything. And I said, no, stop. You're not living on the right side of the equation right now. I'm telling you that as a coach and as a mentor, I want you to stay focused on what you have control over and what I have control over. Do I control underwriting turn times? I don't, do I? Can I influence them? Yes, I can by getting more deals into the pipe and saying, I need better turn times. And trust me, me and Jimmy and Todd, we have conversation. We talk a lot. I'm imploring to you the importance of cause versus effect and the influences that we have. All right, would you also agree that we all want the same thing with us and our channel partners? And what do we want? If this is when a contract is written, what do we all want the same of? Close of escrow when? On time, don't we? We all want the same thing. So you get that mutual agreement with your channel partners. We all want the same thing. How we get there is super important, okay? I'm going to give you an analogy right now, and you've got to work your analogies. Whether it's your airline analogy, so when you step onto the airplane, the person to the right is the pilot. That's the person you're going to have the least amount of interaction with. Then you go down, it's the flight attendant that gets you sitting down. They close the overhead bin. You have that, everybody feels that comfort level when you're there. They ask you if you want something to drink. For your LP1, your air traffic controller is your LP2. Work on your analogies. I'm going to give you one, though, as it relates specifically to applications. Do you all feel right now that I just learned about this morning at 7 o'clock that I'd be given this? I did, but I feel that passionate about this topic. You've got to get it to where you, and I suggest it's your LP1. If you don't have LP1s, okay, if you don't have LP1s, it's you. LP1 is the archaeologist. They're the archaeologist. They're the one that goes out in the field and goes, holy smokes, there's a lot of bones. They don't have to know what the bones are. They have to identify that there's a lot of bones there, get them up out of the ground, and get all the rocks and dirt off of them. Are you with me right now? Okay. Who's the next person that gets involved with it? LO, Indiana Jones. Indiana Jones comes out from the university. That's the guy that goes, that's a Tyrannosaurus freaking Rex. Okay, that's what kind of bones those are. And yeah, you're missing the thigh bone over here. Still give me up that thigh bone. Okay, so the archaeologist, the time for discovery needs to stop right here. Okay, discovery happens over here. Your LP2 is not discovery. This is your museum curator. This is your museum curator. This is the one that takes all of the bones that have been identified by the expert that were unearthed out in the field, puts them all together, so then when it gets into underwriting, what happens? Do you have high PTDs or low PTDs? Low PTDs. I'm going to help you as well. Please write down systems science, please. Systems science. Why this is so important for you to understand is that from the time the contract is written to the close of escrow, it's up here at the front. When you make an improvement way up here, it has a longer period of time to magnify. Is everyone with me? Where do we as an industry, whether it's forward mortgage, reverse mortgage, it doesn't matter, from our company to other companies, where do we tend to focus as an industry that's wrong? At the end, don't we? That damn underwriter, we got to get funding smoother. Give me a break. If I'm focusing on the things that happen clear down here, it just doesn't have a long time for that to be magnified. So being focused up here, and that's why I can always have conversation with my team members, is why are you focusing on us, Phil? Why are you because this is where it matters most. Now go to the economics of your team. Where is your lowest incremental cost as a loan proceeds? Is it up here or is it down here? It's at the beginning, isn't it? That's where your lowest incremental cost is. So why wouldn't we spend more time up here with our LP1s to get it to where we're getting the whole story before they even meet with you as the LO? Okay? Stop and think for it. I own this right now. I own this. In the core, who do we focus on? LOs, LP2s, or LP1s? LOs. We, in our branch, we have calls for LP2s. We spend a lot of time with our LP2s. What do we have for our LP1s? Not a lot? Not a lot. So I own it though. And we're developing right now in our branch, because I live in cause, is we're kicking up every 2 weeks, we're gonna have a call, half hour for our LP1s to get them to be able to know and unearth the story, because that's my lowest incremental cost is here. For me to have challenges down here, here's what it sounds like from a client. How come you didn't ask me for that 3 weeks ago? Isn't that what it sounds like? When did they dig in their heels? Late in the process or early on? late in the process, of course I'm going to dig my heels in. You should have asked for that 3 weeks ago, right? If you sat in on Alicia's earlier, she even said, get them mad right at the beginning, right? So they can get over it. Is this going to be an easy process for clients to go through? Don't know. It might be. If they've got all their documentation, if they provide us everything, even if they've got extenuating circumstances, right? If we've got all the documentation, are we astute enough to be able to figure out a deal if we've got all the documentation? It's generally, answer me this. When we have challenges on a file, is it something that happened between the time the contract was written and the close of escrow? Or was it a pre-existing condition that was not diagnosed properly, so it truly was malpractice that was committed using medical terms? Okay, I submit for your consideration that on a daily basis in our industry, there's malpractice that happens because we don't take the time and teach and prepare our teammates that help us get the whole story, or if you don't like archaeology, go back to a medical analogy, there's not proper diagnosis before a prescription is made, and that's malpractice, and that's why it blows up at the end, okay? I'll ask, and I'll demonstrate this. If I ask the question to you all, how long should a consultation take to take a 1003? How long should it take? It's the answer I say as well. It's not 20 minutes. Sometimes we just got 30 minutes. I don't want it to take longer than 30 minutes. It takes as long as it takes to get the whole story, right? And especially if you're doing builder business, let me make a comment to you. I encourage you to write it down. It's always better to bother the client than to not perform for the builder. I'll say it again. It's way better to bother the client than not perform for the builder. Okay? My point to you is that I believe that we have this false perception that we've got to do it fast and we shouldn't do it deep because we don't want to inconvenience the client. I'll ask a different question. Would you rather go deeper and inconvenience them and have little problems at the end, or would you rather go shallow and have big problems at the end? What's your choice? So you might as well do it fast. Right? If you go to the doctor and doctor says, you got a lump under your armpit. You got a lump under there. And I'm telling you, boy, sit down, take off your shirt, take off your jacket. I'm going to take a 2-centimeter piece out of that. It's going to hurt like hell. I'm going to pull it out. There's going to be blood flying around and stuff. But I'm going to get that sample over to get test results on it. And by 3 days, I'm going to know whether you're going to make it or not, or what medicine I got to get into your body to cure you. Or do you want this doctor? Oh my gosh, you've got a lump under your arm. Oh, you don't have to take off your shirt. Oh, don't bother taking off your jacket. What do you want to do? You've got a lump. What do you want to do? Oh, you don't want to take medicine? You don't want to take time off work? You don't want to give me a sample? What would you think of that doctor? A quack. Are we being quacks? You've got to be willing to get it, and I understand it. Here's where it stems from. It's a societal thing that we are taught not to ask other people about their what? I don't even have to say it. I proved my point that that's how you've been brainwashed. In our business, that is our business. We need to do, I'll stick with a medical term, it'll be a crossover, a financial colonoscopy. Isn't that what we do? A financial colonoscopy? And it's better for you to get to it right at the beginning versus at the end. The people, your mentors, coaches, teachers that you've respected the most, was it because they were easy on you? Was it? It's because they got the what out of you? They got the most out of you. They got the best out of you. Be that. I don't believe, at least from my vantage point, is that people are looking to us from sales. They're looking to be led. They're looking to be led. If it was that easy that they could just go do it on their own, they would just go do it on the internet. Do they do that? No. Be a strong leader. Be a great leader. Part of that is, and Dan said earlier, define the rules of the game. Right? Don't be interactive with what you learned today. Define the rules of the game. Hey, the rules of the game are you're going to get me all your stuff and you're going to get it to me fast. Right? That's why Mary over at Remax is comfortable referring you to me, because I get the answers and I get down to the bottom of it right away. Oh, don't sugarcoat it for me, right? Ask for permission. I suggest this. Ask for permission about 3 things. Do I have your permission to be direct with you about your personal finances, the condition of the property, and the goals that you have financially? May I have your permission? Just ask that question. What will they say? What will they say? Of course they'll say yes. And it'll sound like this. Don't sugarcoat it for me. Just get on with it. Okay, here we go. What it does is it makes them feel like they're in control. Who just took control? I did, especially about finances, right? I can just say that, and then I can ask them any question that I want. So I firmly believe it's the way that we behave up front. It's that willingness and desire to go deep with them up front, establish that rapport with them, so that then you get a great app up front. Let's see, last month I spent $31,000 on PEP that had nothing to do with pricing. How do you think that sits in my lower left quadrant? Not very well, does it? Okay? So a lot of this is stuff that had it been uncovered or more properly addressed, I wouldn't be paying for extensions on locks, would I? Okay? And I'll give you a case in point how this isn't that difficult. One of my teammates, I might even be turning a little red right now because it still makes me a little upset that I had to do this. Large deposits became an issue at the end. So I said, let me see those. One was for $21,000. The other one was for $43,000. My comment to him was, I have a 6-year-old daughter and a 5-year-old daughter. If I physically set the bank statement down in front of them and said, point to the largest numbers on the page, am I being correct? I'm being correct. The bulk of what we deal with, it's not complicated, is it? What it is because it's not addressed at the right time during the process. It's not that it's overly complicated. Bankruptcy, let me illustrate again. Your LP1, you teach them the questions to ask is, have you had a bankruptcy, yes or no? Yes, I have. Do you have a monthly payment you have to make each month? Yes, I do. Okay, have you ever been late on that pay? They don't even have to remember if it's 7, 13, or 11, do they? We need to know if there's been a late on what? On the payment plan. Can an LP1 uncover that? Of course they can. Who needs to teach them that? We do, right? And Dan and Alicia both, and Dan specifically in his one earlier, was releasing control, right? If you want results, you got to be release more control and you'll get bigger results. Alicia just stood up and talked about that too, right? So you've got examples of people within Summit that they're doing the deal. And so I encourage you is to take this concept. I'm going to let John take over, but it's the upfront. It's early. It's teaching and coaching people that gather that. And one of the guys was asking about CCIs, which maybe we got to get the CCIs, right? We got to get CCIs clarified. You're taking that loan app, having it and getting everything, have a CCI so everybody has dual screens. Does everybody have dual screens? Okay, so your LP1 or you has Encompass up, and then a Word document. I don't care. I'm not saying it needs to be the CCI that's in Encompass. Would you agree the stuff that trips us up is the stuff that doesn't fit in a box on a 1003? Would you agree? So have a damn Word document up that your LP1 is taking and getting all the juicy stuff. Then by the time it comes to you as the LO, you're understand this is presentation methodology. I don't know as much about loans as I do about presenting to people. Is that I take in it so that the left hand knows what the right hand's doing, okay? So you, as a LO, are confirming more than you're discovering. You got a little bit of discovery, but you're doing more of the expert stuff. Be the expert, not the one that's uncovering and getting the rocks and the dirt off the bones, all right? But get that, so the CCI goes to you. Then that handoff to LP2, spend the 5 minutes or 7 minutes, I don't really care how long, make sure that they understand that now through that CCI, there's not a lot of discovery to be done. So I hope that helps. I'm going to sit down because otherwise I'll keep talking. But with that, John, you take over from here.
Question in the back?
Yeah, question in the back. Yeah, condition of the home, their personal finances, and what their financial goals are, right? Part of what we're doing... Part of what we're doing, right, is looking long-term. If we truly say that we're relationship-based, then we need to be looking long-term with these people, right? No different than for a couple things for me. I never refer to it as an appointment. Appointment is something, that's what you go when you go to the dentist, is an appointment. I refer to it as a consultation. Consultation infers that there's going to be an exchange of information back and forth. So it's something is getting that information back and forth from them and making sure that they know that we're going to go deep with them. Does that help? Yeah, okay.
All right. Well, good afternoon, everybody. I'll start by saying that my metaphors are nowhere near as vivid as Phil's, so I probably should have gone first so that you could have had him as the finishing person. So I apologize that I'm the letdown. Okay. So one thing before I flip this slide is something that Phil was talking about, and I heard it 2 years ago when I was in Las Vegas. Tony Robbins was talking about the difference of 2 degrees. Has anybody seen Tony Robbins talk? Has anybody heard him talk about the difference of 2 degrees? Okay, what can you guys tell me about what he means by the difference of 2 degrees? No. Go ahead. Probably, but I'm going a whole different direction. So instead of having you go a third direction, I'll tell you where I'm coming from, which is, anybody here is a golfer? I am not. Okay, but this golf analogy makes a whole lot of sense to me, which is when you're hitting a golf ball and you hit it off by just 2 degrees, how does that change the trajectory of the ball? By 2 degrees or by a whole lot? By a whole lot. It is a small, incremental change that you make that will make a dramatic difference in the outcome. And this graph demonstrated that for me. Because if you do something a little bit wrong in the beginning, instead of going down the track you're supposed to be going down, if you're off just by 2 degrees, that's going to go way off track. So my goal today is not to talk about huge changes to do something dramatically different in your business as you practice every single day. I want you to pick up 1 or 2 little things that you can do different in how you present your clients and how you talk to them about getting information from them. That minor change in your business practice will make a huge difference in where that golf ball ends up going down the fairway. Does everybody agree with that? I think that was the best analogy I got from Tony Robbins. I have no clue about the boiling water thing. I probably slept through that part. I was exhausted after jumping up and down and telling Chris Schenk I owned him like 14 times. It was great, but I was exhausted. All right. So first of all, I want to tell you the 3 things that I'm going to cover today are going to be 3 different areas of our practice. The first one is going to be the LP1, contacting and communicating with your borrower. Who here has an LP1 by a show of hands? All right, so about half the room. Those of you who don't have an LP1, who's having this conversation with the borrower? You are. Okay, so I'm going to talk about it assuming you have an LP1. We all have talked about teams. We want to build a business. By the way, those of you who don't have LP1s, do you have an LP2? Okay, so it is, as Todd taught me when I first started here, Todd was my coach, and he says when you have an LP2, you can have your LP2 do this initial conversation because it is most important that it isn't you. Because if I am the one, as a loan officer, if I'm the person having that conversation with the borrower, they're going to want answers. Okay, the goal of this initial conversation is to not give them answers, but to get information from them. So if you're having this conversation with the borrower, they're going to say, hey, you're going to say, hey, do you have a bankruptcy? Yeah, I do. Does that mean I don't qualify? And you are now kind of on the hook to have to start going down that road. Well, let me tell you, FHA's rule is this, and conventional's rule is that. And that is not your goal in that initial conversation. So your LP1 or even your LP2 can say, you know what? My loan officer is an expert at that. Phil is great at answering those questions, and when you sit down with him and talk through all this, he'll be able to tell you all of your solutions. But today, I'm going to gather all that information so that Phil is best prepared to meet with you. So we're going to talk for a few minutes about the LP1 interview or conversation. We're then going to talk about the loan application itself. Okay, I know that a lot of people don't take face-to-face loan applications. I will be speaking from the perspective that I meet with all of my clients face-to-face. Unless they absolutely cannot do so, I meet with them face-to-face. So how I'm presenting this is going to have to do with a face-to-face meeting. If you don't do them face-to-face, feel free to ask questions about how to modify it, but just to give you perspective, that's where I'm coming from, is the face-to-face loan application. And then the final thing that I'm going to talk about, the final category, is going to be getting the file off your desk. Okay, so these are the 3 categories I'm going to cover. LP1 interview, the face-to-face loan application, and getting the file off the desk. Sound good? All right. So first we're going to talk about the LP1 interview. And I'd like to start with a quick role play. So Phil, would you grab the microphone and come on up and be my borrower? All right, so I am not the loan officer. Okay, Dan Miller is my loan officer. So I am just receiving a phone call from a borrower. You're on.
From you? Okay. Ring, ring.
Hello, Dan Miller's office. This is John speaking.
Yeah, hey, John. My name is Phil Scott, and I need to get a loan.
Outstanding, Phil. Well, hey, thank you so much for calling. How did you hear about Dan?
Dan was referred to me. My realtor referred him over to me, and he seems like a nice guy.
Wonderful. Who's your realtor?
Tom Tomlinson.
Tom Tomlinson. You know what? We love Tom. We've worked with Tom for years. He is one of the best in taking care of his clients. You're in fantastic hands. How do you know Tom?
Tom and I went to high school together, and we actually went to Chico State until he dropped out.
Got it, got it. I heard that about Tom, but we'll keep that on the side. Okay.
Yeah.
So, hey, I want to start out by saying that my job is to get you set up with an appointment to meet with Dan. So what I want to do right now is I want to take a look at gathering a little bit of information, finding out what your questions are, and then get you an appointment so that you can meet with Dan and get the process started. Does that sound good to you?
Yeah, that'd be perfect. I want to get going.
Beautiful. All right. So first of all, I need probably anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes of your time in order to gather some information from you. Do you have that time right now for us to have that conversation?
Yeah, for sure.
Perfect. Okay. So I want to get started with some basic information. And at this point, guys, I'm going off of the role play. I'm going to go through the 1003 and I'm going to ask everything I possibly can about the 1003. So I want my LP2 in Encompass, and I want them comfortable. Until they're comfortable in Encompass, give them just a short application and at least have them fill that out, but continue training them on how to actively take the application in Encompass while they're talking to the borrower. Okay.
And I'm role-playing for you. When you're practicing with your teammates when they're on the phone, you don't do it face-to-face, because otherwise what are they using? Body language. I'm not being rude to John. I'm doing it so this is how I'm modeling for how you need to be doing it. Preferably, you're even on a different phone. You're doing it on the phone, so they're comfortable with their equipment and on their computer. I'm not doing it to be. Does everyone understand what I'm modeling right now? It's not okay to role play face to face.
Okay. So I'm done asking all the basic information. So all right. So Phil. I appreciate you taking the time. I know it's taken about 30 minutes already. I need about 10 more minutes just to get you prepared and get an appointment set up for you to meet with Dan. Do you have another 10 minutes still?
Yeah, let's get this done.
Beautiful. All right. So, hey, thank you for answering all those questions for me. Based on what you've told me, I'm going to be giving you a list of paperwork that I need you to bring to the appointment that we're going to make for you to meet with Dan. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to ask you to do us a favor. You have an email, don't you?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So, do you have a scanner at home?
Don't have a scanner at home, but I got one at work.
Okay, or maybe even a fax machine?
Got a fax machine at work as well.
Perfect. All right. So I'm going to email you a fax cover page. And we have a great system where this fax cover page logs your information directly into our system. So I'm going to email you this cover page. I want you to print it out, fax me all of your paperwork 24 hours before the appointment. And I'll tell you right now, I'm looking at having you meet. Today's Tuesday. How's Thursday afternoon, either at 2 or 4 o'clock look for you?
4 o'clock's going to be better for me getting off work.
Perfect. All right. So Thursday afternoon at 4 o'clock, and we're going to need both you and your wife there. She can be able to make it?
Yep.
Perfect. Okay. So I need 24 hours before that. So we're looking at basically this time tomorrow afternoon that I need you to fax me the paperwork that I'm about to give you. You got a pen and paper handy?
Hold on a second. Yep, got it.
So I'm going to read you this list. I'm also going to email you a copy, but I need you to write it down right now to make sure that we have a thorough understanding of what you need. You ready?
Yep.
All right. So I need the last 2 years of your tax returns, all of the pages. You got
Okay.
that? All
Yep.
right. I need the W-2s for each of those last 2 years.
Okay.
I need the most recent 1 month of paycheck stubs for you and your wife. How often are you guys paid?
Every 2 weeks.
Every 2 weeks. So I'm going to actually want the last 3 paycheck stubs from each of you. Can you do that for me?
Yep, we keep them
When
all.
was the last time you were paid?
Well, today's the 16th, so we should be getting something here soon.
Beautiful. Well, since I don't want you to wait until you get that check, go to the one you got on the 1st. Give me that one, the 15th of last month, and the 1st from the month before. Can you do
Okay.
those 3 for
So
me?
3 of them total.
3 of them total.
Okay.
All right, perfect. I want the last 2 months of bank statements. Who do you bank with, Phil?
Golden one.
That's right. I asked you that a couple of minutes ago. Sorry about that.
Yep.
Okay. So I need the full bank statement. Did they mail those to you, or do you get online statements?
Online.
Online. Okay. So pretty much every banking system has, when you log in, you're going to get a transaction page. It's just going to give you a summary of all your transactions. Do you see that a lot?
I do.
Perfect. I don't want that. In the top corner of most online banking systems is a button called Statements. Have you ever seen that?
I haven't paid attention, but I'll make a note of it.
I want you to take a look for that button, because you're actually going to be able to, from every banking system I've ever gone into, you can download a PDF version of the good old-fashioned bank statement that looks like it's on the bank's letterhead. That's what I'm looking for, and I want the 2 most recent months of those bank statements.
Okay.
Okay?
Yep.
All right, if you have problems finding that, pick up the phone and call me. I'm here until 5.
Yep.
And I'm back in at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning, okay?
Okay.
All right, perfect. Can you read that list back to me real quick?
Yeah, you wanted to get my W-2s, my tax returns, and my bank statements, and 3 pay stubs.
Perfect. Okay, so I'm going to be emailing you that list in a couple minutes. It's going to have driving directions on there to my office, and then we've got you set up for 4 o'clock on Thursday afternoon, and you'll be having that paperwork to me tomorrow by 4 o'clock, right?
I thought my appointment was on Thursday.
Forgive me if I misspoke. Thursday afternoon is the appointment, but I need the paperwork by tomorrow afternoon so that we can be prepared to meet with you. Dan wants to be able to make sure we have everything that he needs to review your file and be most prepared to issue that approval letter on Thursday afternoon.
Okay. I'm sorry. Yeah, that makes sense.
Perfect.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions you have for me?
What's my rate?
You know what? That is the thing that Dan is an expert at. There's so many different programs, and that's why Tom said that you need to work with Dan because he is the man, and he'll be able to tell you exactly what rate you need to get.
Okay. And do you think I should go with a fixed or an adjustable?
I think you should go with what Dan recommends, and he's going to help you figure out what is in your best interest.
Okay. All right.
All right. Hey, I look forward to meeting you on Thursday, and I'll call you tomorrow with a confirmation and just confirm that you're going to be there on Thursday. Have a good evening.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Okay.
All right, guys. Questions, thoughts, feedback on that role play?
Excellent job, John.
Thank you.
So one thing I picked up that's big, fact cover sheet from the
Okay, so
My question is, how do you generate that before making the application?
So my LP1 is starting the application in Encompass. All you need to do is put in enough information in the contact screen to generate a loan. Okay, so you start in the contact screen, you create a loan, and then as soon as you hit save, you got a loan number. At that point, you can then be in the e-folder and click fax cover page, and you can print the fax cover page separately out of the e-folder. Does everybody know how to do that? Okay, in the e-folder, so you just have to have a loan number. Does everybody know what basic information is needed to have a loan number? A name. Okay, if you have a name and you've gone from the contact screen to the borrower screen to the loan screen, okay, the loan number's not there yet. You click save and the loan number is there, okay? Click on the e-folder. In the e-folder, you're going to have the menu across the top. It says File and Documents, and we all know that wonderful menu that Windows always has on the top. One of those options, pretty sure it's the second one in. I have no idea what the name of the option is, but you click on it, and it says right there, Print Fax Cover Sheet. I mean, I might be using the wrong words, guys. You're all intelligent people. You'll find it. It is one of... It is the last one on that drop-down list of whichever list it is. You can't miss it when you're looking for it, and you can print the fax cover sheet right out of there. Okay? My LP1 prints 2 copies of that fax cover sheet for my folder when I meet with the client face-to-face. Okay? 1 copy is for us to use in the file so that we're scanning everything the moment that we copy it from the borrower. The second one is for us to give to the borrower at the application. Okay? I'll talk about that in a couple minutes when I get to the application part. Any other thoughts or feedback on the role play we just did? Yes. That's why God and Chris Ringrose created junk. Yeah, if you put it in junk and you put it in the processing junk folder and your processor does their job of hiding their junk, then you will not have the underwriter see any of your junk. Say that again. Okay, so I'll repeat the question just for the video. So once you have a 40-page fax or an email from the client, how do you parse it out? So first of all, I'm putting it into the e-folder if it's not there already. So if they use the fax cover page, by the way, the fax cover page is only for faxing. Borrowers cannot email utilizing the fax cover page. So if they're emailing to you, you're then dragging and dropping it into the file manager in the e-folder. Okay? Once it's in there, it's drag and drop very easy. When I taught this to my branch, I was using one of my files as an example, and it was a pretty comprehensive file. And I said, hey, we separate everything out, and Blake Eagle said, gosh, that seems like it's really time-consuming. How long does it take? Well, it was actually really cool, because it time-stamped each thing as to what time that little named item was created. It was 4 minutes to take a 40-page full fax. You just start with page 1, and, oh, that's income. Drag it over here, you drop it, you call it income. You get to the next one, oh yeah, that's a bank statement, and you drag it in the file manager, and you name it. The next thing is income again, you drop it into the income piece in the file manager. Yes. So you don't have to use Adobe at all. The e-folder has the ability to do that in File Manager. Okay? All right. In the unassigned area, that's correct, in the unassigned area. Okay. So the second part that I want to role play real quick is the phone call to the borrower as a reminder of the appointment the next day. Okay? As much as we'd like to set all of our appointments 1 day or 2 days after, and I'm going to do this just as a voicemail, Phil, so you can take this one off. So this is, every appointment needs to be confirmed. Even if I'm meeting with the client the next day after we made the appointment, I still have my LP1 call at the end of the day just to confirm. And the call goes, and again, it'll be a little bit different if they answer live, but the content is the same. So for the sake of time, I'm going to leave this as a voicemail message. Ring, ring. Hey, Phil, it's John King over at Dan Miller's office. Hey, I just wanted to leave you a quick message to remind you about your appointment with Dan tomorrow at 4 o'clock. I checked our fax system and I saw that you faxed everything to us, but I noticed that we're missing the paycheck stub from April the 1st. Phil, it's very, very important for you to get the best information from Dan tomorrow, that he has everything that we needed on that list. So I really need you to give me a call tomorrow morning or tonight if you're available and let me know what happened. Did that get stuck in the fax machine? I know that happens to me all the time. Or is there a problem with it? I just need to know what happened and your inability to get that to us today, because it's extremely important that we have everything we need in order to get the most out of that time that you're spending with Dan tomorrow. Hopefully you got the email from me with the driving directions. If you have any questions at all, please give us a call. And remember, your appointment is at 4 o'clock. It's extremely important that you're here a couple minutes before 4. It's really important that Dan's able to spend that entire hour with you. He's got another client that's coming in at 5 o'clock, and we want to give you the full hour. So if anything comes up that you can't make it right at 4 o'clock, give me a call ahead of time. Here's my number. I really look forward to meeting you tomorrow. Have a good night. Bye-bye. Okay. Questions or thoughts on that? It depends on what it is. I mean, we're all making decisions every single day and running our own business that is the right thing to do for the client, for the realtor, for the transaction, and for the relationship. And so you've got to make that judgment decision. But nothing I said to the borrower, or more importantly, what my LP1 said, nothing gave them permission to not bring everything with them. They needed to call and tell me if there was a problem. And at that moment, my LP1 can say, oh, man, gosh, you don't have all 3 paycheck stubs. Okay, let me do this. Let me go grab Dan, and let me talk to him and see if it's, which one are you missing? You're missing the one from 3 paychecks ago. So you got the most recent, too. Okay, let me check with Dan and see if it's okay for us to keep that appointment, even though we're missing that. Let me see what I can do for you to make this happen. And so you're kind of coming out the hero on the back end, but the truth is there's times when I'm going to say no. The client can't, they are self-employed, they cannot get me tax returns, they got me a paycheck stub that's useless because you own your own business. So no, there's no purpose in meeting with that client without having his tax returns. Dan? Yeah, I kind of suck at that. Let me answer that, and then I'll turn it over to Phil. So I'll give you a great example. I got a text this morning from my team, and again, I told you I have a relatively new team right now. And they said, hey, Bob and Mary are wanting to buy another rental property. Their realtor really needs a pre-approval right now. I know Bob and Mary very, very well. I know Bob and Mary are very, very well qualified. I just did a loan for them 2 months ago. I said, yes, issue the approval letter. And then about 2 minutes later, I said, oh, and call them and make them get us the paperwork today. Because my first mentality is, oh, the approval letter's done, the urgency is off, right? I can wait. I got the approval letter done, no problem, that can wait. And I've made that mistake too many times, and it's come back to bite me. My flaw, I only have one, is admitting I have flaws. No, my flaw is that, no, I forgot what the heck my flaw was. See, that's my flaw, forgetting what it is. My flaw was, it was a mistake in determining what was a more important use of my time. So the reason that I didn't take a thorough application up front is because I looked at statistically 50, 60, 70% of those people are going to pull through. 30, 40, 50% of them aren't going to close, whether it's because they don't find a home, because they change their mind, because of whatever. So I'm going to spend all this time getting a fully documented file that only 70% of them are going to close, and of the ones that close, only 25% of those are going to apply with a real deal in the next 30 days. So I'm still going to need to update bank statements. I'm still going to need to update paycheck stubs. Why fight them to get it now when what I get now is going to be expired a month or two from now? That was my logic, and I said that's a waste of time. I was very, very, very wrong. Okay? I got bit too many times on information I should have had. There's two pieces to this. One is information I should have known that I didn't see because I didn't make them get me the paperwork. The second issue is it puts me further behind the 8 ball. I'm now to the point where I'm requiring my clients to give me letters of explanation before I'm giving them the pre-approval letter. I know what the story is. You've told me the story. I know we're good. But both of us are going to forget that version of the story. We all know that they're telling the truth, so the version won't change. How we present it to the bar, how we present it to underwriting, okay? What questions we have. At the moment you're looking at it, you know, hey, underwriting's going to have a concern with this, they're going to have a concern with that. Now the contract comes in a month and a half later, you say, that credit report's still good. Yep, I issued the approval, it must be clean, we're good. Except you forget that you need that letter of explanation. Get it up front. Does that answer the question? All right, Phil?
Yeah, the challenge is, and practice your analogy is very important. Would you like a medical one, an airline one, or a legal one? Which okay, so I'll give you, stick with your analogies. From a medical perspective, sir, you don't have all your documentation together. That would be similar to asking the doctor to do a prescription without diagnosing or running any tests on you. Would you feel comfortable with that? You wouldn't, would you? It's the same thing. So to put you in front of Dan without having all the stuff to run the test to see how sick you are and what you have, that would just be, I wouldn't be doing you the highest and best service. It has to be for their benefit. You have to explain to them why they need to and why it's so important. Because someone else has let them not bring in their stuff before and they had a horrible lending experience and a lot of troubles at the end. That's why we do things different. I didn't have to do that last time when I did a loan. How'd that go for you? It didn't go well because you'd be talking to that other person again, right? You're talking to me now.
That was in 2005, so
yeah.
It was stated income.
So then if you want to use the airline analogy, right? In our PowerPoint presentation that hopefully everyone is using is that you use the airline and we're going to hit turbulence along the way. Sir, that you're saying is that you don't want to get buckled in. What does the flight attendant always tell us? You have to be done before we can take off. Everybody has to be buckled in. You're refusing to get buckled in. Okay, you need you to get buckled in, and that's get us all your stuff. Do you want a lawyer analogy? A lawyer analogy is, would you want your attorney to build your case with only half of the evidence? Would you want your attorney to stand before the judge not knowing all of the facts? You wouldn't, would you? So that it's all the way your LP1, or if it's you, set it up correctly from the beginning, and it's got to be for their benefit. If it's for you to do your job, it's not going to work. If it's so that you have the highest probability of closing your transaction on time, it's really, really important that it gets here. Otherwise, your loan literally will go on hold for the information that we don't have, and I can't render the most accurate information of your ability to qualify. So it's all, I promise you, it's all in the setup. Does that help?
Yes. I still struggle with that. I struggle with, again, time management. Is it, if I spend 15 or 30 minutes looking at a file before the borrower shows up and then they end up not showing up, well, what could I have done with that 30 minutes and they didn't show up anyway? So I don't have a surefire answer. I'll tell you that right now what I'm doing is I'm making sure that we have complete packages or that I'm at least aware of what is missing. Okay, so that's kind of where I'm trying to have my LP1 appropriately set the expectation with the client. In the beginning, she started telling my borrowers, yeah, John's going to review everything, and really he'll have worked all your income and all the rest of that stuff before you get here. No, I'm not. Okay, so now we spin it in the borrower's best interest, and we say we want to make sure that we have everything so that as John talks to you about your documentation, we know we have everything in front of us that he needs in order to have a thorough discussion with you. I can stare at a paycheck stub and try and figure out how much overtime and is it consistent or not, and we can run our calculations in the wonderful worksheet that training created, but the truth is you start by asking the client, hey, do you work overtime? Do you do it all the time?
Frank.
Is that a normal thing for you? Will your employer confirm that fact that your overtime is going to continue? I got to ask that question before I even begin to decipher the paycheck stub to figure out how to determine
So it's for Frank, and I think
figure out how to determine the calculation of income. Does that help answer the question? It's all about how you set the expectations up front, and I set the expectation that we want to make sure we have a thorough set of documentation so that John can review it when he's sitting down with you. Okay, so I'm going to move on to the actual loan application. So there is a great, on page 114 in your workbook, is how to take a loan app in Jim's absence. Read this. It's good information. I'm moving on. No, I'm not going to repeat this. Guys, great information about the steps you need to go through, filling out the CCI, the things you need to go over with the client. I will tell you that my LP1 has to have a file created for me. We use an intake sheet. We call it our blue sheet. It's really a technical term because we print it on blue paper. Okay. It's just a sheet that we use, gets basic information from the borrower, where they came from, but it's also got kind of some tracking information so we can track when we sent out the pre-approval, when did we contact the client initially. It helps me keep track of it. So I want to copy the blue sheet. I want to copy a printed copy of the blue sheet. I want a printed copy of the fact cover page, 2 of them. So I want those in the packet that I have on my desk before the client comes in the door. I want the 48-hour list. Does everybody know what the 48-hour list is? Okay, if you go in Encompass under, you print, so in Encompass, click the print button, you go to custom, and you look for 48. It's the 48-hour list. Okay, the number 4, 48-hour. It is a to-do list of missing documentation that you need from the borrower. Okay, print 2 of those and have them in the file waiting for me when I go to meet with the client, because I don't care if we got all the paperwork from them ahead of time. There's something else we need. There's something else that as I went through the file with them, we realized that I've got a question about this or that, and I'm going to check that box. Hey, we're going to be doing the Back to Work program for you. I need to get tax returns going back to 2006, and so there's a checkbox for 3/4 of the things you're going to need, and the bottom third of the page is blank lines that you can just handwrite in any documentation you need from the borrower. It is literally written on there, this is a 48-hour list, and the verbiage basically says to the client, you have 48 hours to get this back to me. It creates a sense of urgency if you forget to. If you don't have that as part of your verbiage, do it now, but the paper reinforces that. So I love that piece of paper as a document to give to the borrower saying, here's what you need, we've agreed, these are the papers I need you to get to me. I may or may not decide to give them a pre-approval letter that day. But even if I do, I still tell them, I have to have these documents within 48 hours or we're going to have a major problem when it comes time to move forward on your file. Can you get these things to me in the next 48 hours? You need to get them to say yes. Okay? I've had clients who have asked me very directly, John, what can I do to help make this process go faster? Thank you. Don't we love those clients? Okay. I have given them the fax cover page with the instruction that every time they get a paycheck stub, fax it to me. Every time they get a bank statement, fax it to me. I'm not chasing anything when this goes into contract. I've got it all in the file because they faxed it in every time. All I have to do is click retrieve and download all of it into the e-folder. I'm not currently prescribing that to all of my clients. I'm not currently telling everybody you need to fax me every paycheck stub and bank statement. That's just a process step that I haven't decided is worthy of taking, but those who choose to want to be proactive, I'm giving that to them as a choice. Okay? So having this prepared ahead of time and printed on my desk makes it that much easier for me to move forward with the clients and get all the paperwork I need from them to make it a complete file. Any questions about that? All right. So I have about 6 minutes left. Yes?
So when they fax it to you, does that
Yes, here's the key. The key is that in Encompass, it alerts the person who printed the fax cover page. Okay? So when you print the fax cover page, you'll see all the technical barcoding. Right in the middle is an email address. That tells you whose email address will be notified when the fax comes in, and only that person will get the email notification. Anybody that goes into the file can see the little green alert that says you have pending documents that need to be downloaded. I don't know what the verbiage is, but it's in green and it tells you in the top corner with the alerts, you have documents that need to be downloaded. No matter if you're the person whose name was on that cover page or not, you'll be able to see that there are documents there. But we're not checking our files every day to see if there's something there, okay? So I'm being recorded. I'm still going to tell you the truth. My LP1 logs in as me in Encompass to print that cover page. Because the cover page, when it's my Encompass file, and I'd assume most of you is set up the same way, says the John King team. So everybody on my team gets notified if a fax is sent from a cover page that was printed out of my Encompass. If it's printed out of my LP1's Encompass, it has her email address. Now that's your call. If you want her to be the one that is the only one notified, great, go for it. For me, my practice is that we print one that has the team email address on it, and that way everybody in the team is notified. And I believe most loan officers' Encompasses are set up. Galen, do you know? Okay, so your loan officer Encompass should be set up with your team group email address as the default email address, and so that is who will be notified if the fax cover page is printed out of your Encompass. Okay, yes? Yeah, if they're in process, I don't want to see anything new. I mean, like purposefully, I personally am of the opinion that the more that I see, how do I want to say this? It's funny. I was talking to Annette and Lori Becker a couple minutes ago, and I finally got them to agree with me, and Annette says, okay, I agree with you. I still had a couple more points I wanted to make, but I won. I stopped talking. Okay? Everybody knows in sales, once you get the client to say, yes, shut up, right? Because all you're going to do is talk yourself out of the sale. Once I have an approvable amount of documentation, what can anything new help me with? Can it make me more approved? No. Okay? So the only thing it can do is add more paperwork that somebody down the road is going to want to look at and potentially find a problem. That's my opinion. Okay? So once I have enough documentation, I do not want them to continue sending me paperwork while we're in the actual contract to close time period. Okay? So the last part that I want to talk about, I'll make this quick, I have 4 minutes, is how to get the file off your desk. Okay, so the first thing you do is you just pick up the file and okay. We're paperless, right? So you really don't have to do anything to get it off your desk. The key to me is if you schedule it, if you know that the appointment is for what I call a conversion. That is when somebody is in contract and we're going to be talking about locking rates and printing disclosures. I set the client's expectation, hey, you're going to be coming in for an hour, you're going to meet with me for a half hour, then you're going to go sit down with my LP2 for a half hour. During that second half hour when they're sitting down with the LP2, she is going through the inquiries. She's going through the address history. She's doing all the minutia that we know is needed every single time. But during the first half hour, she's reviewing that. She's in the file behind at her desk, printing out the credit report, taking a look at it, knowing what inquiries we need to look at, taking a look at the bank statements and looking at the large deposits. I'm talking to the client about the big picture. Kind of like what Phil and I did today. Phil did a lot of the big picture, I'm doing the detail. When I meet with a client, that first 15, 20, 30 minutes, big picture. Hey, remember when we met or talked the first time and we talked about doing this? I showed you the pricing sheet and how we'd have options. Let me show you that sheet now again. Here's your choices today. Based on my professional opinion and the goals that you shared with me earlier, this is the option that I think is the best choice for you. Do you agree? Perfect. All right, so let me tell you a quick story, Mr. or Mrs. Client. If you didn't know it already, my industry is being blamed for collapsing the global economy. We did a lot of things in our age as an industry that we shouldn't have done. Okay? The good news is that those people are gone. The bad news is that the federal government, who controls all the money now, is making us pay the price today. So I, unfortunately, have the wonderful opportunity to tell you that this process, it is my goal to make this process as smooth as possible and it is likely that at some point in time you're going to feel that I failed on that goal. I want to apologize ahead of time, but this process is cumbersome. We're going to do everything we can to get everything we need from you today so that there is nothing extra that we're chasing down from you later. But please know that somebody else is going to be looking at your file beyond me, and they're going to see something I didn't see. They're going to have a question about something that I didn't think was a question. So at every point that we ask you for paperwork, that is everything we think we need at that moment. But please don't ask me if that's everything we need in order to finish your loan, because it likely is not. So be prepared for additional requests for paperwork. It is the state of our industry, and it's my goal to make this process as smooth as possible and minimize the additional documentation. But I need your help. The only way we're going to get through this together is by you being committed to helping me as quickly as possible gather everything that we've asked for. You're sitting here today saying, John, I've got 45 days to close this transaction, which, by the way, it normally takes 30, doesn't it? Well, yes, ma'am, but you have a down payment assistance loan on your file as well, so we have to send it out. It's going to be a longer process. Most important, Mr. or Mrs. Smith, is that at each stage that we talk to you, there's only 1 or 2 days we have to get it to the next stage to keep you on time. You may think, you've got 3 weeks left, you've got a lot of time. It may feel that way, but that's just not true. So I need your help getting me as much information as you can, as quickly as you can, but no more than 48 hours from the time we request something. Can you get that back to me? Do I have your commitment that we can do that? Perfect. Okay, so you're going to sit down with Mary now, and she is going to take care of the rest of the paperwork, talk to you about disclosures, and get you moving forward. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to help you make your dream come true in home ownership. And if you have any questions, Mary is your best point of contact. If she can't answer your question, she'll get a hold of me. And if you need to talk to me, feel free to just call her and say, hey, Mary, that doesn't jive with what John told me up front. Do you mind if I talk to him about that? And she'll get you on my schedule to talk to me. I am here to help you through the process, but most of my day is meeting with clients like you. So your best and most accessible person is going to be Mary from here forward. Okay? Thank you very much. All right, we are out of time. Phil, do you have anything else to add at the end?
Yes, there is. I just wanted to stress, it's the beginning of your process is going to make the biggest difference in your success in getting to larger volumes. It's up here. Not focusing on blaming and living in effective state, cause and control. Focus right here. Let me ask you a question. There's a pretty important basketball game tonight, and it always baffles me how people don't make the transition from sports to business. Yet we spend hundreds of millions of dollars on sports watching it. They make a lot of money. They have coaches. They practice in the team. You think they get to make more or less mistakes because they can't make mistakes? How many? More mistakes or less mistakes? Less mistakes when they get to the championship, right? Games are lost by less than the free throws that are missed. So am I following my logic? You've got to eliminate mistakes in sports to get to the championship game. It's the same in business. Take the mistakes off. No turnovers, no free throws, right? Make the damn free throws. Collective documentation is the same as free throws. There's nobody putting their hand in your face. You don't got somebody bumping into you. Make the free throws. Get your documentation, the whole story up front. Make the free throws and get to the championship game. Have a great one.
Thanks, guys. Have a good afternoon.